Huma Qureshi is on her way. She would be reaching here in the next couple of minutes. And meanwhile, a couple of housekeeping announcements. One is that the delegates, that is those who are in the program and their name figures in the schedule, if they have not yet received their delegate tag, please get in touch with the volunteers. And all the volunteers, whenever there is a delegate without a name tag, please collect them from the delegate registration area in gate number 8, right? Many delegates who are staying in the hotels have received their kits, but not their delegate tags. So do get the delegate tags from gate number 8, delegate registration area, right? That's number one. And number two, this session, which will start in the next few minutes, Kinnera, my colleague, HLF colleague, fellow director, she will be in conversation with Huma Qureshi. And while we are waiting for Huma Qureshi to arrive, let me quickly introduce her so that when she actually comes, we can get into the session straight away. Huma Qureshi, as probably many of you know already, is an actor, but she also epitomizes the outsider who has triumphed in the glittering world of Bollywood. Her journey from the bylanes of Delhi to the grandeur of Indian film industry is nothing short of inspiring. Effortlessly transcending mediums and platforms, she has meticulously charted her career path, acting in Hindi, pan-Indian, international films and shows on streaming platforms. More importantly, in 2022, she started her own production house, and she is here not so much as an actor, but as an author. She has a book which has come out recently in 2023, and this is a book titled Zeba, an Accidental Superhero. And this is her debut book, and she will be in conversation with Kinnera Murthy in a few minutes from now. Thank you so much, and once again reminding everybody, those who are delegates, to please get their delegate kit as well as the delegate name tag, and we are sorry for the delay in getting those delegate tags to you. Thank you very much, and we look forward to this session.
Welcome Huma Qureshi, the royalty, kebab royalty of Delhi, who has come to the biryani capital of Hyderabad.
Namaskaram.
She wanted to say something in Telugu specially, but Namaskaram is as good as anything else in any other language in India. So only some languages you have something different. So glad you could make it here. What I'll do is, look, it was very interesting. Enjoyed reading it. I'd like to start off with the basic questions. Basically, why did you write this book? And when did you write it? How did you manage to find the time to write it?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. This is such an honor to be here in this lovely city, the biryani capital, as you said. And nothing would bring me more joy than to be here to talk about my book. Of course, I've come to the city many times, but in a very different role, in a very different capacity as an actor. And this time as an author, I think it really makes me very, very proud. Zeba is a labor of love that kind of happened during COVID. Those 2 years when I think all of us were stuck at home. And I think I always had this idea, and I wanted to, I wrote a 10-pager as a television pitch. So I thought maybe a great limited series or a film could come out of it. So when COVID happened, I had several options. I could either write a script, I could convert this into a graphic novel, but I think I chose the harder path of writing a book. And I think it was always a dream. I've been journaling since I was, I don't know, 12 years old. So one of the things that I had promised my 12-year-old self was to write a book, and I think that's how it happened.
Okay, lovely. This book has, I noticed the style is different, you know. There are so many statements you make, and some of the statements are highlighted. Probably I'll talk a little bit more about those. But before that, just to give a quick idea to the audience about what the book is, because all may not have read it, and hopefully after this you will read it.
Should I read a little excerpt? Yeah, would you? Shall I? So I'm going to read a bit of the first chapter. 10th August 2019, 18 minutes past midnight. So just for aside, this book is written in a very specific time period between 1980 and 2019. So 10th August 2019, 18 minutes post midnight. Hi, I'm a second generation immigrant based in New York, and I love my life. Over the course of this book, I shall share with you how I'm also surprisingly destined to protect it. Although I did not start this book with the usual once upon a time, blah blah blah, banality, if ever there was a tale that needed this particular opening line, then perhaps this is the one. You see, after all, I am a superhero. And the story shall take you to the very beginning, to the source of my superpowers, the fabled Holy Spring, Zaza, where I shall eventually also confront my destiny. So yes, I'm Zeba, an accidental superhero with a hijab for a cape. Yes, you read that right. Now the book also has these little post-its, as I call them, which basically are like author thoughts, disclaimers, whatever you may want to think, make of it. Everything you will read in the following pages is fiction. Do not believe anything you read here. Just because something is written down does not make it true, right?
In fact, that is something I wrote down here. So I'm glad she read it out because I didn't have to do it. Yeah, but I found that very interesting. I'd like to say that the dedication she gives this book to is for all the little girls who dream of flying and misfits who refuse to grow up. It's so nice. I have simply one advice: keep asking those damn questions. And I think that's a lovely dedication. And did you have something else in mind when you wrote it? And something particular message to give somebody?
Not necessarily. I think the idea of perfection is so strange, right? Like nobody's ever really perfect. Even people who we think are perfect are always striving for something else. It's like they say, the grass is always greener on the other side. So for me, I think at the core of it, all of us feel a little bit misunderstood, a little bit lost, a little bit not fitting into the norm. So actually this book is dedicated to every single one of us. Because I do believe that there's a superhero inside each and every one of us. We just have to realize it.
You say I'm Zeba, are you?
I don't know, that's for me to know and for you to find out.
Because you know, when I started reading this book and I started talking about it, I started saying Zeba Qureshi. And then my daughter would say, Ma, it's Huma Qureshi, not Zeba. So, does it happen to you that a lot of your own character comes into the character that you build?
Well, definitely, you know, whether as an actor, when I play characters, when I'm writing something, it is you. I mean, to put it another way, it's like, for example, if I have to do a play of Romeo and Juliet and I'm supposed to play Juliet, of course Shakespeare wrote it, you know, so that's his character, but my interpretation of that will be mine only. And when I'm writing myself, of course, each and every character in the book is somewhere a version of me, of my imagination, my creativity, whatever you want to call it, but also they are not me. Like for example, for me, so for those of you who have not read the book, each chapter in the book is a different character. So the entire book is always in first person. So it's always, for example, one chapter is Zeba's voice, One chapter is the great Khan and his voice, his inner chatter. One is the mother, one is the father, one is Khairun, the palace eunuch. So each and every chapter is in first person narrative, and I really enjoyed doing that. I guess because I'm also an actor, so I think in terms of characters. So for me, like I was writing it from the mental space of each and every character like that, and I had a blast. Say for example, when I was writing about the great dictator, now he stands for everything that is the most hateful thing in the world. But it was just so fun to like get into the mind of an evil dictator. Like how would they think, or what would they do? Thank you.
It's interesting the way you write the characters, but I feel that you have been partial to the female characters, you flesh them out beautifully, each one stands out, whether it's Khairun or even Sultana who comes for a very brief time, Bibi, and so many others, even the mother. But when it comes to the men, they're just caricatures, excepting the, of course, the tyrant.
I don't know, I think it's unfair. Well, I mean, having said that, I mean, this is the female gaze of the world. You know, superheroes are always classically, traditionally, mostly men. And yeah, this is a female gaze and unapologetically so. I think for far too long we've played like, I don't know, footnotes in male stories. So if some few female characters are shining more than the male, then it shouldn't be such an unfair thing.
Great.
Yeah, and also I feel like, I mean, for me, I want to write a very entertaining book. Like I want to write a fun book, sassy book, like a book that you would read and laugh a little bit, or like chuckle a little bit at least. And I think I managed to do that because sometimes, I don't know, I always feel like when I was growing up, narratives of the female experience were very sordid and heavy, and you know, and I was like, but what about representation of somebody like me? You know, and I never found that when I was growing up, whether in literature or mainstream cinema. So I guess this is my little humble attempt at talking about people like me.
I love that characterization of females who come out so distinctly and with a mind of their own, and so very beautifully that was done. That I like. But I also found that you show Zeba as an evolving character, you know, from a privileged self, kind of a person. She starts understanding a lot more because of the circumstances that changed her. And she actually, who shuns female company earlier, or maybe she was not, but generally she was more of a loner. And then she starts understanding the camaraderie of women. You know, why is it a lot of us understand the camaraderie of women a bit later in age?
That's a great question, actually. That's a really good question, and I think you're absolutely bang on right. I think somehow when you're growing up, it's always, I don't know, women are seen as almost like antagonists to each other, where you're sort of competing for it. You know, as if like the pool of resources is very limited and you have to fight against each other to get it. However, as you grow up, you realize actually, that's been my experience as well. I am who I am because of the women around me, whether they could be in the family or my friends, and they only enrich your experience. But we don't find representations of that. We're always seen as, you know, the term cat fights is so almost relished, especially by popular media. And I feel like, but men also fight all the time, but nobody's calling it a dog fight. You know, I mean, why not? I mean, I just feel like you may or may not get along with somebody, but gender has got nothing to do with it. I think.
Exactly, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of time this is not portrayed the way a woman fight, a cat fight and a dog fight are seen very differently, because it's purely patriarchal in understanding ways. That was very interesting. Initially, Huma, you know, when I wanted to look at this session, so when we talk about sessions, and I thought maybe I'll do this session. And then I thought, you know, Huma is so young, let's get somebody, you know, much younger or...
But you are young at heart.
And that's thanks to my girlfriends. And girlfriends stand up for you like you should have. And I really do admire you for that. I think very few people in the film world have the courage to stand up and talk about things. I always want to say, because I wanted to say Katie and Zeba, therefore Kinnera and Huma. So I thought, okay. Now you are a history student, and you have, looks like you have been, you know, affected.
Can you guys hear us properly? Is there too much echo? Piche?
Are you
Okay,
able
there's a
to
thumbs
hear
up
us?
there. Because I mean, my voice is echoing in my head, that's why.
Because it is open space here, that's the thing. So, being a student of history and also being a person, I think, who feels about a lot of wrongs happening in the world, because we talk about tyranny, despotism, we talk about violence and everything. And you also give references to different kinds of incidents in different countries. You know,
She picked it up.
yeah, quite a lot. Actually, you have Nepal, the Royal Massacre, the oil countries and the geopolitics of tyranny. Then Idi Amin, Bokassa, and the big fat weddings. Also,
But having said that, so the book talks about the big royal, big fat wedding. I wrote it before the big fat wedding happened, just saying.
yeah,
So maybe art inspired life, who knows?
yeah. And one thing we can say is in history, these things keep happening. So it so happened that you predicted it. Yeah. So when I'm looking at these things, it means that you are quite agitated with the things that are happening, and you somehow wanted to bring in this context within your novel, even though you said
Agitation is an interesting word. So, guys, I'm from Delhi, and if you're a woman growing up in Delhi, raised in the 90s, went to Delhi University, Gargi College, I guess there's a bit of a protester, agitator in you. I think at the seed level, I think you're always a bit of a revolutionary disruptor in that sense. And I think whether it's been my audio work in films or now my journey as a writer, I think I do want to carry forth that sense of disruption. But the way I would like to also think of myself, at least that's how I would like to imagine myself, is that I think I'm more like a chronicler. Like these are just things that happen around us. You know, these are things we read in the newspaper or we grew up feeling emotionally about. And I just perhaps wanted to chronicle it and maybe have an outlet, maybe share. And I don't think I pretend to ever have solid answers for anything. But I think as a creative person, as an artist, our job is not to give definitive answers, but our job is to create conversation. Our job is to create empathy. Our job is to, I don't know, depict the human condition, and that is what my humble attempt is. Like there's a very beautiful chapter which I really enjoy, which talks about how the evil Khan became the evil Khan. You know, it talks about an incident in his childhood when he took his father's like half alive body across the hills, and it raises a very pertinent question. If you don't mind, I would like to read that. Yeah, do you mind? It's actually a lovely little exercise that's there in the book. And I feel whether you're from, I don't know, LA, where the fires are happening right now, from Palestine or anywhere in the world, you know, it talks about migration, it talks about the loss of your house, your family. And it makes you really empathetic to the human condition. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. Nobody should ever lose their home. This is an exercise everyone should do, so I'll give you a little background, okay? This is a story about how the evil dictator became the evil dictator. Because his father was in a palace which got bombed out. So it says, finally after 2 hours of digging, they managed to free the king. Not the great Khan, but his father. But the person whom they rescued from under the pile of rubble was no longer the king they had known. He was half gone, I mean, literally. Zayed the Benevolent had lost both his arms and legs and had been reduced to a stump. Barely alive, the king managed to instruct his son, the Khan, to take him to a nearby tribal town that may have escaped being bombed because it was situated in the cover of a hill. This day, went down in Khudi's history as the Black Day, and the young Khan's journey to safety, the Hijra Shah. So take a moment, here comes the exercise, dear reader, for an interesting exercise. Ask yourself this: what is the one thing you will take before running out of your house in a case of a fire, or flood, or war? What is that one thing you would tuck under your arm, or lift over your head, or hide under your coat? What would you take with you if you had to leave home overnight? Money, passports, keys to your house for when you can return, a lover's old shirt, a dead man's bones in an urn, an iPhone charger, a bottle of rum, a photograph, your diary.
And it actually happened in the LA fires. What did you take and run when you had to really run?
So you see, you can tell a lot by a person by the prized possession they reach for at a terrifying time like this. I would truly like you to know and acknowledge that authentic aspect of yourself. So in short, you are what you grab. Apologies if that sounds totally inappropriate.
That was very good. This same Khan, he becomes a tyrant. His father worked for, where is this? He took 20 years to create one nation out of a lot of warring tribes. He brought them all under one umbrella, and he made it one nation in 20 years. And you say 1 year of terror would have done that. That's what his son thinks of. You know, his son was total opposite of what the father was. And she also writes about actually one more previous ruler, and this is where the history reigns over her story. And that is, the first Akhund was a woman. Her legacy was belittled and erased from records. It is always easy to tarnish the female sovereign with tales of incompetence, jealousy, and vanity. Would you like to say something about it?
I mean, it's true, isn't it? I feel like we are unkinder to women when we talk about them, especially women in positions of power. I don't know. It's just how the world, global gender politics is skewed. And I think many people, and especially now where so many women CEOs and industrialists or like entrepreneurs or actors, you know, I think you understand that. You see that. Is it right? Of course not. But I mean, it is important to call it out as and when you see it. You know, and I feel, especially as an actor, like the eve of the release of this book, I was very, very scared. I got so much anxiety because I was like, I must be really dumb. Because, you know, as an actor, sometimes we give interviews and you get misquoted all the time, and then a controversy happens. And here I am, I've put all my thoughts in a book. So now people can do whatever with it. But thankfully the response has been really lovely and really, really heartening. So I guess when something really comes from the heart, it sticks. Also, an interesting thing. So there are a lot of like things in this book which are very personal to me. I mean, nobody needs to know. So my mother's name is Amina, which is the first lady. I just put that in because my mother's name. And Akhund is actually my mother's maiden name.
Oh, that's
I
nice.
just had to put that in somewhere, only for me to know.
Anyway, because you talked about the mother character here, you know, every time I was thinking about this session, I said I must remember to sit like an exclamation mark and not a question mark. Now, why is it that most girls tend to, or even this, I don't know whether it's gender specific, but we tend to stoop, we tend to slouch.
We are taught to stoop and slouch. We are taught to cover our upper torsos with dupattas or something. We are taught to be ashamed of our anatomy, and it is very deeply embedded in women, as if it's something to be ashamed of. It's quite crazy that, you know, 50% of the world's population is taught to hide and almost be embarrassed or shamed about their body parts.
True. Yeah. You talk about a lot of issues in the book, you know, and religion is one part of it. You do talk about it, but you make a statement and yet don't go very deep into it. For example, this eats, shoots and leaves. You use it as a metaphor for the interpretation of Quran. and how people interpret it differently and make different rules for different people. And also about, just one second. Her choice of a blessed location might mitigate her crime in the eyes of God. The fervently religious can believe in anything, right? So when you talk about these things, what are the things that you really want to convey to people?
I don't know if I have what I do want to convey honestly is that all of us grapple with belief. All of us grapple with what it means to be human. All of us grapple with what it means to have an experience with the divine. And we all have a very specific and very individualistic interpretations of it and experiences of it. And sometimes within the family, they are very, very different. My brother, my father, my mother, and I, we have very different understanding and relationship with God, with life, with ourselves. And nobody is to really define it for anyone. But I think the book just talks about different human experiences. I don't think it chooses a side. For example, if, an occurrence might happen and I could think, it's just a nature taking course, or for somebody else it could be an act of the divine, like who's to argue that? And the book also talks about like how do you even measure what it is to be divine? Is there any like scientific instrument ever been created that can weigh divinity or measure it? It's not like time or whatever. So I think these are just like, again, impressions.
And you also talk a lot about the burqa, the hijab. Yeah. No, in the sense that, would feel this new hijab becoming a new identity. It gave her a sense of autonomy, safety, power, and the gift of anonymity.
I feel for me, what a woman chooses to wear is her own choice, as long as that is not thrust upon her or forced upon her. Now, whether that's a mini skirt or it's a hijab or it's a bikini, it's really your individualistic choice. Like, for example, to me, it is as offensive to shame a woman for wearing a mini skirt as it is to take someone's, headscarf off. I feel it's her choice, and who are we as a society to dictate that? And I think the book just talks about that. I think I'm very pro-choice in that sense, as long as nobody is being forced to do something about it.
In the same way, I talk about the women in the harem, and this is basically where you talk a lot about the camaraderie of womenhood. And I think that was the most favorite part of my, what I read about this book. Women in the harem are the only free people, strong, educated, smart, independent-minded women with individual identities, invisible but plainly in sight. I think every thing that she says ultimately ends up with one statement in the end, which is like a huge punchline. So this is really the situation where you're talking about women, the way harem is written about men, but actually what a harem is, and how people support each other and how they come about.
So basically the way I have written about the harem is my own personal fantasy. So being a student of history, I realized that the harems were one place, one area where the men were not allowed to enter, right? And that's a historical fact. And most of the people, historians of the time, were travelers, were all men. So however did they write about what really went inside the life of the harem? They had no idea. So these were at best imaginations or fantasies of men. So when I had the opportunity, I put in my own fantasy of what a harem life could potentially be. My version of this utopia, where the harem is a place where all the women get together and they're running like a silent mutiny against the evil king.
Yeah.
Right under his big fat nose.
Yeah, almost revolutions start that way actually. And
in plain sight.
And the take on revolution is also very interesting. She says revolutions do throughout a tyrant, but it begins another kind of tyranny. For example, what you say is revolution turns into tyranny. People struggle to overthrow tyrants, and after they succeed, suddenly find that they are ruled by yet another despot. So history has a habit of repeating itself in many countries we have seen. So how do we, and I think that's the reason probably you didn't want to end the book.
I feel like we have a responsibility as civil society to remember, to talk about it, to express. And I feel it's extremely important because we will be doomed to repeat cyclical violence and the horrors if we do not remember our past. And it has to be from the lens of the fact that, we are a community of such a diverse group of people, but there's so much love and there's so much kinship and there's so much empathy and we must remember those because those incidents are far more than the fewer acts of aberrations of violence.
Why did you, I wouldn't say shy away from, but why did you not want to give a climax? I know you said I don't like to deal with violence, and obviously this is one solution that could not have been achieved without violence.
So I don't think you know what she's talking about. So the final chapter of the book is a chapter I chose not to write. I mean, one reason is book number 2 can happen, so I get paid more. No, but there is a chapter after the final chapter, so you do know what happens. We don't leave you hanging in midair. But I think, to be honest, I think the final chapter was omitted because the final chapter is going to be book number 2.
Going to be?
Book number 2.
Oh, that's very good. So you've got already a leadership here, was waiting for your second book. Did you have a script in mind when you wrote this book? Because I think you have your own productions too.
I mean, the dream would be to convert this into a film or a series. Let's see what happens.
Oh, that's good. You also deal with a lot of mental equilibrium issues in the book. I mean, that's what I felt, your book, even though it looks small, and even though you said, it's a breezy book, people should laugh and read and forget. But I feel you have addressed a lot of substantial and deep issues by making statements about them and leaving the reader to deal with them. So you talk about mental health at different stages in the thing in terms of handling grief and in terms of handling the aftermath of violence. So would you like to say something about it?
Definitely. I think mental health is something we don't give enough credit to or we don't talk about as much. I've had my own personal mental health journey and I feel it's made me a better person by really looking inwards. And I feel especially in our country we have such a focus on meditation and and a tradition of it. I feel like we need to find our own individual practices of going inwards and being more aware and actually addressing what is really going on inside you. Because only then we'll be able to do anything or achieve anything in life. Mental health is too complex. I don't think I'm the right person to talk about the intricacies of it. The only thing I can say or suggest is don't be shy about it, be open about it, seek help from people around you. And today I'm glad we're reaching a place finally where if somebody says, oh, I need to talk about a mental health issue, they're not stamped saying pagal hai, or this person is mad or whatever. I feel like the shaming of people who need help, I think has to stop.
Yeah, and actually a lot of it happens in India. A lot of people don't seek also help. And I'm glad you made this statement.
100%, like so many people, they don't talk about what women go through. Because we have painted such a picture of what it is to be a mother and motherhood. What about postpartum depression? Only now people are really acknowledging it as a real thing. So imagine somebody who's just had a baby and dealing with all that stress is branded almost like not being a good mother enough. But nobody's addressing her needs, right? Because think about it. Till the time you've not had the baby, it's all about you. Everyone's feeding you and taking care of you, but the moment the baby is out, it is all about the baby. So you're just left just hanging in there.
Yeah. And you're not prepared for the amount of work it involves. Yeah, very true. Very true. And we don't give importance to postpartum depression in this country at all. I think I shouldn't be hogging attention. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions from the audience. And I would like, there are already hands being raised. Please.
Shall we? There?
All men, huh?
And there.
Yeah, see,
Wow.
you should have raised first.
I know they read the book.
Hi ma'am, namaste. I'm just very glad I get to meet you. So a few minutes back you talked about the dressing of women and how it affects them, and you said that you don't mind how people dress, right? So what about the micro bias that the society creates when the people are growing up? So suppose there is a kid and there is a sense of dressing in that household. They follow their religion, they follow their tradition, and they make it about that. So when they create an environment that makes the kid to think that I should wear this, and then they grow up, and then they don't have the chance to wear whatever they want. So what's your take on that?
If I understood the question correctly, because the voice was echoing so much, but if I understood the question correctly, talking about like people being born to a family and following that tradition and cultural ways of dressing up or whatever. You know, what I have to say to this is that upbringing is such an interesting thing, right? Just by virtue of where you're born, you get a name, you get an identity, you get a dressing style, you get food preferences for life. So if you were born like one house away, everything would entirely change, right? Having said that, I personally really enjoy the cultural and traditional aspects of society. I think it's what really makes us who we are, and that must be celebrated. But I feel any tradition that becomes oppressive to an individual's personal choice and freedom, I think that's wrong. You know, anything that is oppressive to that particular individual. Society and culture and tradition are meant to elevate the human experience, not to suppress it.
Yeah, fun.
Give it to anyone, whether they can't.
And I request everybody to make short questions and actually make it a question, not a statement.
Huma ji, when the great pioneer of parallel cinema, Govind Nihani ji, compared you with Smita Patil ji, how did you feel? Of course, I was presently happy, but surprised for me, but how did you feel?
So what can I say? I mean, very humble, very honored, and I mean, it's इतना कान पकड़ने चाहिए. No, but I think it's very, very sweet of him, and Smita ji, I think, is incomparable. I can only hope to be a Huma Qureshi, never a Smita Patil.
Yeah, right in front.
Hi ma'am, a big fan of your work. I think the way you've chosen your characters, it's just made like all the girls dream and come out of this misfit box that you say. Now even more fan with this character that you've written, I can't wait to share this with my niece because we've always had this fantasy of female superheroes, especially in Indian context. So what I wanted to know is that do you have your own female superhero that you've always thought of, or do you purposely challenge these norms? So what was your thought on this?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Honestly, the way I've been raised, I operate in a very genderless way in my head at least. I don't feel like the way I've been raised, I'm different from anybody else by virtue of my sex. I feel I can operate at the same level, and I feel I also deserve the same opportunity that anybody deserves. Not to say I'm better or anyone's worse, but I think we all deserve the same opportunity. So I don't know, I mean, I'm not trying to be disruptive, but if my presence and the way I live my life is being disruptive, then so be it.
Hello.
Hi Umaji. As you were saying that woman is not at our enemy to another woman. So as we all know, we have to develop sisterhood and girl friendship. But as you worked with Anurag Kashyap ji, in the name of rawness and in the name of reality, he used very raw words, M and S words, mother and behind words, Galia, he used a lot in his films. So what is your opinion on that?
So first of all, ma'am, I do not agree to your first statement. I don't agree कि औरत ही औरत की दुश्मन होती है.
No, I'm not saying that औरत की औरत दुश्मन होती है. I am also opposing. You say that औरत is friend for our.
Correct.
So we have to develop sisterhood and we have to develop girl friendship.
Correct.
So I'm agreeing that. In spite of agreeing that, you worked with Anurag Kashyap in the name of rawness
Not
and
just Anurag Kashyap, ma'am, I'm from Delhi.
Yes,
You
yes.
should hear us talk.
yes, yes.
The language is so colorful, it will make your face turn red.
But in the name of colorful.
But I'll tell you one thing,
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, and this I'm saying it, and I don't know if I should say this, but I will say it. Maybe because I grew up in Delhi, and maybe because I was surrounded by all of that. Sometimes as a woman, when you use a colorful word, the impact it has is beautiful. You should try it sometimes.
No. This is
Reclaim the word. Reclaim the power of a word. Please understand that.
नहीं motherfucking words and बहन वो सब words.
So what is your भाई को बोल रहे?
नहीं किसी को नहीं बोलना
question ही रहने दो, no
नहीं. So these words are abusing women, right? That's why I'm asking you. What is your stand?
What I'm trying to say, ma'am, I've answered the question, but just to say, I think sometimes we have to reclaim the power of those words. It's as simple as that. Of course, traditionally it's wrong, and it's also coming from a lot of patriarchy and a lot of gender politics. It's like using the word, if I may say so, without no disrespect to anyone, the word nigger. A lot of people today are reclaiming the power of the word back. And I feel, and my suggestion would be, as opposed to trying to change language now, let's try and reclaim that word back for ourselves.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Right here.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, in the concurrent society, what do you think is the demarcation of power for women? Is it agency or position?
Say that again, please.
In the concurrent society, for women specifically, what do you think is the demarcation of power? Is it agency or is it the position they hold?
Is it the agency or the position taken?
What defines power for women? Is it agency or?
Yeah, these are very complicated words with lots of definitions and meanings, etc. It's very simple. I feel what we are asking for is cerebral equality. As simple as that. When a woman or a man are being raised in a household, they should not be told or conditioned by society, by their families, that they're any different in terms of what they're able to achieve in their life. I think that's the key thing. And I feel any of these stereotypes that come, that that marriage or society or whatever is imposing on you, you should not try and, how should I say it, like make it like a burden on women, as if they are like, sometimes they are the upholder of society, or they are the honor bearers of society. We are as honor bearers of society as the men are, and I feel that equality should be there. So whether you call it agency, whether it's called your position, whatever it is, I call it the equality of resources and the equality of opportunity.
Okay, this is a question here.
Just one last question, please, if possible. We can take one, two, three more. I would like, if that's okay, if we have time.
Yeah, 3 questions as Huma said.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for taking the question. I've always admired the tremendous work that you've done in cinema, and now I'm really keen to see what you are like as an author. So my question today is to you, Huma, an author, not the actor. And I am thinking about what literature means for you, because I tend to think of it as a kind of laboratory where thought experiments can happen and one can conceptualize alternate futures or alternate realities. So in choosing to write Zeba's story as a female superhero, are you thinking on similar lines? Are you showing the potential? Are you imagining a fantasy? Because this is not the way reality is. And 100%. Why do you choose to do this as a literary text and not as cinema?
So first of all, thank you so much for your kind words. Definitely, this genre is fantasy fiction, and sometimes what real life cannot do, fiction and films must show the way. So this is my humble attempt at doing that. Why I chose to write the book and not make a film cheaper. But inshallah, the dream is to make it into a film one day.
Although I have seen a Telugu version of the picture you have acted in Rajinikanth. Rajinikanth film.
So that's a question for Rajni sir.
No, for you. See, I have seen you, but the ideas, they are not matching with your dressing and they are not matching with the way you are behaving. And Do you like to do a picture like Sushma Swaraj, Shabana Agni, like that depict your ideas and your character?
I'm saying the way I'm dressing, it doesn't match with the roles that I do, so it's called acting. This is me. This is how Huma likes to dress. But when I'm playing a character like Zarina or my character in Maharani or Monica or Madali, they are not me. That's what I get paid. Yeah, of course. That lady, I have to ask because she's very like. Sorry.
But you're answering my
Yes,
question.
please. Men first.
Thank you so much. So, Huma, welcome to Hyderabad. So, being an aspiring script writer, I have two questions. As an actor, what excites you more when you're listening to a script? And as a writer, how do I handle rejections where the character says that, okay, you have given more weightage to the female character, I want changes in your script?
Sorry, say that again. The second question.
How do you handle rejections? So let's say I'm narrating a story and the character feels that, okay, the actress has got a bigger role than the male character. So how do I handle it? Where I strongly believe in my script.
My friend, if only I could answer that question. As an actress, if I have a more important part, to get a male cast would be impossible. The heroes don't want to play second fiddle to a girl. I mean, it's very sad and very tragic, but so many times we are playing like 2 songs or 3 scenes in their movies, but they will never do it when we are doing our films. It has to change, but the power is with you guys, the audiences, to choose to watch these films or not watch these films. I wouldn't blame just the heroes. I feel it's the entire ecosystem that has to change in their thought process. And also you have to celebrate men who do that. Celebrate the men who are choosing to be brave and are going there to support their female colleagues by doing those cameos. Like say for example, you have a Barbie and you have a Ryan Gosling playing second fiddle to Margot Robbie. And that needs to be appreciated and celebrated because not many men would choose to do that. And what was the first question? What excites me as an actor is just different genres. When I listen to any script, I think what really excites me, right now currently, like I am just excited by, as an actor, I want to work in different genres. Like I would love to do like an action comedy, as I've never done that. You know, I would love to do a romantic film, I don't know, or a horror film. These are the genres that are different. Like for me, it's about like, when I work with a director or read a script, it's about what is the difference in that world, in that dunya. Like how is it different from something that I've done before? So if I get something similar that I've done, I always tend to say, no, I've done this. There's nothing in me as an artist left to contribute to that.
Okay, the final question because we have the next session on. Hi, Huma.
I love your enthusiasm. I had to ask that you asked.
I love your work. First of all, the characters you choose are really versatile and you can do a lot in the industry. So I want to ask, when we choose a woman, why not we choose a woman-centric stories other than woman-oriented stories? Because they tend to be more of a, if it's a woman-oriented story, they tend to be more of an action sequence, I mean, woman character doing action, heroine doing fightings or something, or it's about, you know, like giving some kind of lecture at the end of the movie. Why not tell women stories? I just want to put this as an example, like All We Imagine As Right, it just tells stories of 3 different women, but we can let the audience choose what they want to learn from the movie other than, you know, give the lecture from the makers. What do you think?
You've answered it now. What is the question?
No, I want to, like from women's perspective, I want you to tell, that movie has opened doors for such kind of movies, and how do you think future of a women-centric movies?
She answered that question when she talked about audience will encourage women-centered films, and also actors who have the courage to act in such films. I mean, male actors who have the courage to act in such films. Only that day, these kind of films can be made because everybody is looking at money, and they would not like to take the risk. So. I think she did answer.
And since because this is the last question, I'll say this to you, so you don't feel disappointed. I don't want anyone to go disappointed. I feel for me as an actor, as an author, as a producer, just as a creative person, what's exciting is to just tell great stories, and not make it about a certain lens or make it about a certain, like for example, my book, it talks about a lot of politics and a lot of deeper issues, but it's not giving you a bhashan. It's not giving you like a It's not weighing you down. It's trying to tell you something which is a representation, but it's almost like a celebration. So if you're talking about gender politics also, it doesn't have to be some boring this thing about life. It can be entertaining, it can be mazedar. It has to be a celebration of what it is to be a woman. It doesn't have to be an andolan. It doesn't have to be a gritty, heart-wrenching story which makes you feel uncomfortable. It must show you the mirror, but it can show you the mirror in a nice, loving, beautiful way as well.
Thank you, Huma. It was a nice discussion, and in any section, we can't really go deep into everything.
No, but actually your questions were amazing. Thank you so much for such beautiful, detailed questions and for noticing things that I think is an author's dream. That you actually picked out on things that and resonated very deeply with me. Thank you.
Yeah, I think even though our ages may be palindromic, I think we really enjoyed this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me here. You guys have been a great audience. Thank you.